Today, there is no administrator in Tobago, chief administrator, because that's the most senior public servant in Tobago is the chief administrator. This absence of an administrator in Tobago came about as a result of the administrator who was in office reaching retirement age. I met with the chief secretary. We sat and chatted for an hour and a half on matters Tobago. One of the matters that was raised in that discussion was the requirement to agree on a new chief administrator. I at the time was unaware of the actual date of the retirement, but I knew that that will come to me from the Public Service Commission, because these two positions, permanent secretary cast, chief administrator, are public service positions. I'm a politician. The chief secretary is a politician. We have to respect the role of the independent Public Service Commission, which treats with public servants. The public administrator will be sought by the Public Service Commission and identified. That commission will make a recommendation to the Prime Minister's office asking for no objection. The Prime Minister under law, before dealing with that, has to consult with the Chief Secretary. And after that consultation, a decision can be made as to who the senior public servant will be to become the Chief Administrator in the THA. That is the law. So I was aware of the vacancy. I'm expecting the Commission to send to me its recommendation as the next qualified public servant in line. And of course, as I expected, the Chief Secretary was with me, and we had a recommendation, we discussed it, and we came to an agreement as to what should happen when the proceedings roll out. The Public Service Commission did its job. Knowing that this administrator was leaving, took steps to see who was the next in line and to recommend it to the Prime Minister's office for the Prime Minister's attention. And the Prime Minister, of course, will have to cover by ensuring that the Chief Secretary is in on the discussions. That recommendation got to the Permanent Secretary in the office of the Prime Minister, but did not get to the Prime Minister. Because at the same time, on the same day that it arrived in the Permanent Secretary's office, in the office of the Prime Minister, from the Public Service Commission, another piece of correspondence arrived, advising the Permanent Secretary that a new development has taken place. So the recommendation made by the Public Service Commission, which would have seen a smooth transition, that one was retired, next person in line, next most senior person, that was disrupted by a second piece of correspondence. So the second piece of correspondence came to the Prime Minister's office before the Prime Minister could even have seen the first piece of work from the Commission, because the first piece had been deemed functus. Because the person that was appointed to be appointed by the Commission, with the Prime Minister's agreement, if it was had, that person was suddenly interdicted. By interdicted, I mean, I'm advised that on the last day of the Chief Administrator going out of office, that office advised the Public Service Commission that the person in line to replace the administrator, not a public servant, who happens to have been at cast in the Prime Minister's office, that person is now to be the subject of allegations of wrongdoing and to be suspended. So the Commission now has no choice but to withdraw the letter which was sent to the Prime Minister's office, which was yet to be seen by the Prime Minister, by advising the Prime Minister's office that a withdrawal has taken place of so-and-so person, and that the process now has to start over with the Public Service Commission looking for the next person in line. And of course, the process of commission to Prime Minister to Chief Secretary would have to take place before an administrator could be had. And that is the reason why the Tobago House of Assembly does not have a chief administrator at this time. What I find worrisome and very disappointing is that the Chief Secretary met with me in the capacity of a public official running a part of the country, made a recommendation to me in the most innocent of way, and withheld from me the fact that it was the intention of the Assembly to take action against the person that they interdicted in the way I have just described. I am very disappointed in my Tobago colleague and colleagues because I have gone out of my way to ensure that no accusation could be truthfully made that the government that I lead has done anything other than to facilitate the Assembly. So, when I heard the Deputy Chief Secretary, interestingly enough, the person speaking to the public in Tobago on this matter is the Deputy Chief Secretary. The Chief Secretary has gone AWOL. He gone missing. And the Deputy Chief Secretary, in the most haughty of ways, describing this problem as one that has to do with the Prime Minister. Because it is easy in Tobago, when you get yourself in difficulty of competence or incompetence, you just blame Trinidad or blame the Prime Minister. I will have none of it. I've gone beyond the call of duty to ensure that no truthful allegation could be made against my office or against me with respect to the people of Tobago. And to listen to the Deputy Chief Secretary explaining that they can't do this and they can't do that in Tobago, the reason why there's no Chief Administrator is because of the actions of the Tobago House of Assembly, who claim to have some audit and who claim to use the results of the audit against a senior public servant. And I refuse to believe that when the Chief Secretary spoke to me on that day, an hour and a half he spoke, that he did not know that what he was doing at the level of the Chief Secretary was interdicting the officer who was in line to be the next post and putting somebody else up to me for my agreement. I find that deceitful, I find it disappointing, and I take note of the fact that not everybody who claim to be what they are is what they say they are.